Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust, Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 537. Who created my trust? And this is definitely one of those important episodes to talk about. We get inquiries all the time at the Vault, people asking a bunch of questions. This is a question that we actually ask. Uh, well, actually, we're going to make sure that this is titled "Who Created Your Trust?" And so, this is one of those. It'll leave it there. It doesn't matter. So, this is one of those episodes where a lot of times people will come on the line and then we ask them questions like this: "Who created my trust?" or "Who created your trust?" And what we get a lot of times is a lot of people reach out and say that they created it. So they're walking into a lot of situations where we hear conversations that they are the trustee, that they're the beneficiary, and all types of things. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is definitely one of those episodes that people just asked for years about this topic. So that's why we're going over it today. Thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to hit the like and the subscribe button. That definitely boosts the channel up in the algorithm. We know we got a bunch of people listening. And so the question, if it is, who's the trustee, who's the beneficiary, it's ultimately like, is this a sham? That's what they want to know. That's what the question is. Whose is it? Is it yours? And these are the questions people come on the line, and sometimes they don't even know that they have these questions. So the education and trusteeship is a big deal, and that's why we do trustee training at the vault. So you can feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, Christian at trustchristian.com. So it's definitely one of those topics where for years, who creates the docs, all these different things. And so trustees reach out, they find out, and we move forward from there. Consultations, training them, making sure they're in the correct position as trustees, having that conversation with them about what position you're in. Did you create it? This is one of the biggest questions that you could ask anyone on the public side. And this is the biggest difference between the public and the private is who creates it. So we actually had someone reach out to us the other day and they typed it into the chat or in the comment section actually of one of the episodes that we did. And they said that they were the decedent executor and things of that nature. And then it got to a point where they said that let's go back to the comment, ladies and gentlemen. It's important to quote directs. When they sat there and made the comment as if it's not an alter ego. If you're the executor, or how are you everything? How are you in every position? So, they said that the foreign, it was a foreign grantor. Okay, so that's what we're asking them. If you listen to this episode and you listen to that episode, feel free to type into the chat to continue the conversation on this one. This is a question that we get a lot in the trustee training is who's creating my trust document? That's is that not a question that people ask? They ask that question on the public side. They ask that to lawyers. We ask that question all the time. Who's creating these things? And so they want to know education wise how to be the best trustees they could be. And the way that you are the best trustees by knowing who created it in the first place. So, you'll get people that will come from the position that where we're going to go now. Because the private side, sure, somebody could say it's, what did they say? It was a foreign grantor. Okay, that's private. But who created it on the public side? Oh wow, for all the ones that reach out to us and they say they trying to capture the birth certificate, they trying to capture the trust on the public side, some says the K trust. Then we read the different definition the other day of what a constructive trust is. Oh, it's all these different types of trust. So which one am I supposed to get? Who's going to create the trust? Did the government create the trust for me through the social security number? Here we go. So supposedly, if the government created this SDK or this constructive trust, we pulled out our Black's Law Dictionary, the fourth edition, the other day, looked at what a constructive trust is. It's not a trust, ladies and gentlemen. So it's something that looks like a trust, but it's not. So even if the social is that entity that's holding that trust fund of Social Security in case you get to that so called retirement age, that you didn't create that age of the contract. You didn't create the age of retirement for the Social Security Administration contract, the trust contract, if it is trust contract. So then you got people wanting to come in and make these comments or how can you change the trust contract you didn't create? How can you change it? Oh, well, I can amend it as a trustee, right? But at the same time, do you even know the rules of that document? Do you know the structure of that document? Did you read the Social Security Administration Act? Bam, we'll get them still trying to go at us. They'll ask us these questions. Oh yeah, I read. They ain't really read the Social Security Administration Act. Maybe a few have. Oh, I read the Social Security Administration Act. So they said they read it. Okay, then they'll pull up HJR 192. Oh, the money's not real, and there's a bankruptcy, and this, then the third. Okay, so do you know bankruptcy law? Do you know what type of trust or an estate administers bankrupt estates? If that's the case, because this is what we hear over the internet that we're sharing with people saying, hey, look, we sat here and heard these guys. We've had conversations with them. We actually talked to them, and their conversations are not consistent with what people call, whether it's the law or otherwise. When we're having a conversation, oh man, the government created a trust for me, but I didn't know about it. Okay, so the government supposedly created this trust. What position are you in? Are you the beneficiary? Sometimes most people are gonna say, I don't even know what position I'm in, right? I don't know what position I'm in. Okay, then you got a few say, well, I was in a beneficiary position, but I'm not gonna be in that position anymore. I'm gonna take control of the name. I'm gonna get control of the name. Maybe they almost want to say they're gonna own the name. Interesting. So they're trying to own the name. Oh, I wanna get in and own that trust. That's what they say. Like, wow, okay, so you're trying to get in on the constructive trust that the government created for you? I'm trying to get control of it because they've been hypothecating money off of my labor. There is no money, but they're hypothecating money off my labor. Do you hear the it's not a coherent statement. When you talk about hypothecation, that's what it is. That's what's going on. Yeah, sure. You put money in the bank, they create more money out of thin air. That's on the public record. It's called hypothecation. It's on the public record. Oh no, but the government, they created this trust, and so then they're creating hypothecation on the name, and I got to do what? You got to be the beneficiary. You got to be the what? You got to be the trustee. But what happens when you come to the voting? We say trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. So you don't need to have anything in a name, personal name, and there are many different names because it's business, not personal. But who created my trust? Oh man, the government created my trust, man, because my family, they signed me up for Social Security, so I got a Social Security number. So that's the way I know how to do it. The Social Security number is for a job, for public benefits. But I want to go private, trust Christian, or vote, but I'm still holding assets in my name. I want to go private though. So who's going to create my trust if I go private? Because the government created the public one, right? So who's going to create the private one? That's why when you inquire and you reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com, we go over that in the consultation. It's not public information. It's private, right? That's what you want, right? It's interesting to see where the internet is nowadays, to see where they think they can just Google everything and get all the answers through Google. If it was only that easy. Especially when you talk about private information. Public information traditionally is going to be on Google. You can just Google it. Who created my trust publicly? Uh, did you create the trust publicly? Hold on. The government created that trust publicly. But then you got lawyers and people in the public selling trust. So those are public trusts. So which trust is you supposed to use? The government trust or the ones the lawyers create for you? Do you really have to spend money, quote unquote, spend it? Do you have to spend money and go out and get a trust from a lawyer when the government created one for you? This is the conversation that we entertain when people reach out at the vault when they come through with a consultation and they ask these questions. Oh man, what am I supposed to do? Or how am I supposed to do it? The government created one, so what's the point of even buying one, man? Come on, man. I'm going to buy a public trust now? The lawyer created that for me. That's how it goes. Oh. In the private, you want to know how it works? The family did. There's a family situation. Somewhere, someone in the family made something happen privately, period. That's how it goes privately. Who created my trust, you can say publicly. It's not so much did the government create it, it's are you going to use the government one by default? Think about it. They give you the entity that's the worst possible entity to use, and people wonder why their life is possibly in whatever shape it's in. And then you say you got a few that, oh man, I'm going to do business properly, make sure that the business remains in the business. Right. So does it look like, look, this is the line you all hear all the time. Oh, if you go into a corporation, you're going to get double taxed. Okay, does Donald Trump pull down a salary? Did Bill Gates pull down a salary? Did Steve Jobs pull down a salary? Did Zuckerberg put on a salary? So how are they double taxed? Who drives the company car? Who uses a cup of coffee every day? De minimis. You can go look up fringe benefits. When we get this conversation here, oh man, if I go into the corp, I'm gonna get double taxed. Oh, really? But what entities have the best liabilities? Meaning minimal. Is it a corp or personal? But they tell you, oh, go get in the S, let it come directly to you so you can still pull down personal. Isn't that what they say? Pull it down through your personal. Just go through the S. These are the words of wisdom that you hear out there in the public nowadays. It's truly not words of wisdom. It's a gaffe. That's what it's called. It's a gaffe. It's half knowledge. They're not supported by lawyers. Even if you're having this conversation, yes, this conversation should definitely be able to be had with lawyers when we're talking about, or accountants when we're talking about structures, entities, all those different things. And so when someone's saying S, all we got to do is look at the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. But how many times do entrepreneurs pull out the numbers? Do they pull out the numbers and say, what is the best number situation for us moving forward this year based off of what we're doing? And so we're here to talk about that. This isn't financial advice, legal advice. We're having that conversation that, you know, isn't that conversation needed for the entrepreneurs, quote unquote, investors that we sit in the rooms and we have these conversations. Sometimes they're private, sometimes they're pay to play, and sometimes they're public conversations. It's just in the public, does it have to be a gaffe where somebody says you have to pull down a salary? We sit on the line with lawyers all the time. We ask them to show us the law that says you have to pull down a salary. That's what we ask the accountants, and then they get quiet. And then we ask the lawyers, hey lawyer, we need you to share with us where it says you need to pull down a salary. Sure, that's great for family members. Some people say it is great for family members. Oh, really? Not at all. That's just what they say. Oh, well, if you put your family member on salary, you can write them off. This is the information that's floating around in the public. Oh, get your family member on staff and then you can write them off. Well, aren't they a liability to the system now? And how are you operating privately or even encouraging them to operate privately if you're putting them in what's called the system? Think about how people call it that. Oh, I don't want to be in the system. The system? How are you in the system? Because you're using your social in the system. The system is used as a social system. That's what it is. Do you have to use socials? Clearly, they have EINs for businesses. They have other things, structures, quote unquote, entities for businesses, for family businesses, operating the right way properly. Oh, I want to go private trust Christian in the vault so me and my family. Are you going to keep operating in the public system, or are you going to pay the big bucks and go private? It costs to stay in the public. That's why they're hitting you with the liability every year. It's the public system. Keyword system, ladies and gentlemen. If it's a system, then we know that there's other systems. There's no one system, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know that. There's many different systems. There's actually the private system, and then there's the public system. People know about the public school system, they know about the private school system. We're aware of these things. Who created the public school system? Who gave the largest endowment to the public school system? The Rockefellers. You think they care if that the vault's saying this right now? They have the largest endowment. It's public information to be looked up. Creating the General Education Board. Now the Board of Education. Oh, the teachers aren't paid enough. That was the statement that's been used for years now. When they have the largest endowment. Ladies and gentlemen, education is controlled publicly and privately. There's nothing wrong with talking about that in the public. Why? Because that's like asking you all, are you aware that there are banned books that you can't buy in certain countries? There are banned books that you can't buy in certain countries. That's a fact. Let me Google it. Well, there's banned books that you can't buy in certain countries. The IP doesn't allow people to buy those books in that country. Who created the public trust? Who created the private? Who created yours? Because everybody likes to reach out and say, or a lot of people reach out and say, oh man, I have a trust, so this, that, and the third. So you created it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, is it public or private? I created it in my uppercase, lowercase name. Oh, really? You hear? Let's go there. Oh, wow. There's a difference between the all caps and the lowercase. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in business. It does not matter. There is a public and then there's a private. People say, oh, there's a thing called private equity, private capital, private credit. There's money on the private side. You just don't go to the private side and there's nothing there for value of exchange. There is. They call it private equity. This is where you buy into people's company. You give up equity in your company. You give up value in your company. When people say, I'm going private, oh, I want to be in trusteeship. If you're moving in chancery, if you're moving in equity, that's private equity. I didn't know that around Trust Christian in the Vault. I didn't know that that business looks like that on the private side, whereas in the public sector, it looks like what? You putting up your own money. Some people say, oh, in the public, you can use OPM too. Can you do that in the private? Of course. Families do deals together. Who created my trust? That's what they reach out and ask all the time. The public one? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important choice. Public or private. That's it. And when you figure out, hey, the private one doesn't look like the public one, I might have to invest in my private education to learn how to do so. Appreciate Melrose Bronx for tuning in live. Listen to replay. Always appreciate Melrose Bronx, New York for tuning in live. Listen replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you listen to live, listen to replay, definitely hit the like and the subscribe button. We always appreciate everybody that hits the like and the subscribe, and share this with your friends and family that has the same mindset or wants to know more about that style of information. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we know a lot of people end up creating their own. So what happens when you have to pass it along from the first gen to the second gen? Do you know what liabilities are associated with that because you created it? Are your children going to step in, or yeah, are your children going to step in as the beneficiaries or the successors? See, this is the question that the trustees they reach out and they ask. But that's not this episode. Because it's almost like asking, well, what about the children? Are they going to create their own, or are they going to come up under yours? Because then at one point, that someone's asking them that question: who created the trust that they're managing? Who created the company that they're managing? And when you hear first and second gen, they always say it's just a family company. Who created it? The family did. See how we went right back to that? When we say family, usually they do sit down with a lawyer, quote unquote. They do sit down someone possibly internally to help them draft it for sure, definitely. That's the question. Those are things that are very common in bigger families, but that's common across families in general. Appreciate everybody that's going to reach out to the vault, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you all for trustee training or any inquiries at all. We definitely appreciate everybody that's reached out throughout the years. We got a lot that's gone on this year, and moving into next year. It's been a great year, and we want to make sure that we rock out with some families here towards the end of the year. It's been great working with the families this year that we work with. So when it comes to who created it, that's something that whether you reach out privately, look forward to hearing from you. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of families that we look forward to hearing from. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to know those things at the beginning of the year." Okay, we'll hear from you then. But for those who want to know right now, we look forward to hearing from you. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. This is one of those very important topics right here. This is one of those things we'll never get past just because it goes into the common knowledge of who is supposed to create it. And this is where, when we get in front of various different people, the answer is going to be different. So if the answer is going to be different, it's almost like you need to get a medical opinion before you even make these decisions. You got to get two or three medical opinions, right? You got to get two or three legal opinions, right? Two or three financial opinions, right? And what if all three of them are different? Do you get more? How many people are going to go get more? So they can find out where's the consistent thread of execution. Well, we've sat in the room with those consistent threads of execution. We look forward to hearing from you all. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com for trustee training. Peace and joy.